Incredible rescue. 3 young heroes reveal amazing bravery to save Billionaire from train tracks. Mia, Daniel, and Alex lounged by the train tracks, their laughter blending with the distant drone of an approaching locomotive. The sun beat down relentlessly, a reminder of their stagnant summer in the little town they called home. Nearby, the worn-out buildings bore witness to their struggles, while they dreamed of futures far from this place. This particular day, however, the quiet would shatter a life-or-death moment waiting to unfold. Mia stared at the ground, an unease gnawing at her, the looming uncertainty of her future clashing with her aspirations of becoming a veterinarian. What if I fail? The question echoed in her mind as she glanced toward Daniel, whose reputation as an overachiever had painted a target on his back for the school's bullies. His quest for excellence felt suffocating. She could see that it was taking a slow toll on him, just as her home life cast a long shadow over her hopes. There was an unspoken fear that lingered in the air that they might be doomed to reincarnate their parents' struggles. At that moment, the blaring horn sliced through the oppressive heat, snapping Mia from her spiral of self-doubt. A sleek black car loomed across the rails, its fancy alloy wheels juxtaposed against the grime of the tracks. Inside sat the billionaire, the indifference of his privilege palpable even from a distance. Sam Hargrove, the man known for crushing dreams and ignoring the working class, sat oblivious. A cold rush of anger surged through Mia. Had he ever felt the weight of expectation, the fear of failing those who relied on him? Daniel struggled internally. Could he overcome the stigma of being seen as just smart, knowing that his mother's pride rested on his shoulders? This moment where they could lend a hand felt far removed from the hourly routine of homework and burdens. He was caught between wanting to be admired and grappling with the need to protect his emotional well-being. Before they could catch their breath, as the train thundered closer, Alex felt the barriers of expectation crashing down around him. Art and mechanics, the clash of his true self with their demands, was a constant battle. Would anyone believe in his hidden talent? This was it, a chance for something greater. But would he just be another face in the crowd, confusing fear for bravery? Mia's heart raced as the decision loomed. We have to do something. Steeling herself, she turned to Daniel, their eyes meeting in a shared moment of resolve. This was a moral dilemma: save a man who would likely never understand their struggles, or fold inwards, surrendering once again to an indifferent existence. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Faced with insurmountable trains of thought, loss and duty collided within them. The oncoming train's thunderous roar drew nearer, as did their doubts. Could they truly surmount decades of stigma and bitterness in one impulsive act? Adrenaline coursed, yet something deeper gripped each of them like a vice, the anguish of their lives reflected in a man equally trapped by expectations. Now or never, the time for hesitation evaporated. Would they risk everything, perhaps proving that heroes aren't defined by their wealth or background but by the actions that push them beyond their limits? Would defining moments like this echo in not just their lives, but his as well? The stakes had never been higher, and as they raced toward the rail, the line between courage and recklessness blurred, leaving tantalizing questions looming in the air. Mia sprinted towards the tracks, her heart pounding in rapid succession with the train's relentless approach. The noise drowned out her hesitations, making room for a single thought to flourish: save him. Her breath came in short gasps, each inhale a reminder that today could define her. She glanced back at Daniel and Alex, their expressions mirroring the urgency she felt burning within. "Daniel!" she shouted, urgency lacing her voice. "We need to pull him out." His brow furrowed, hands clenched at his sides as if grappling with internal warfare. Fear mixed with determination colored his expression. He surveyed the unfolding scene, timing the train's arrival. The moment stretched into eternity. Yet deep inside, a flicker of intent ignited the first real step toward becoming more than just a student defined by grades. In this moment, Daniel would find a way to be someone important, someone more than just the kid known for his intelligence. "Let us do it," he yelled back, finding his voice amidst the chaos. Daniel bolted forward, the veneer of his hesitations cracking, revealing a burgeoning confidence. For the first time, he felt alive, an agent of change instead of a silent observer. As they launched themselves toward the car, Alex tore his gaze away from the encroaching threat. He gritted his teeth, pushing aside the clamoring doubts about his own value as he dove to the passenger side door. The echo of the train's whistle sent shivers down his spine. "I'm an artist," he growled internally, "I can think on my feet." He yanked the handle, forcing it open just in time to see Sam Hargrove groggily lift his head, confusion and legitimate fear in his eyes. "Get out. Now!" Alex shouted with surprising authority, surprising even himself in that moment. He was grappling with emotions he had always kept submerged. The chance to act, not just react, cast away years of feeling inadequate. This was his truth showing itself against all obstacles. With Mia and Daniel both at their sides, they steadied the billionaire in the chaos. Together, they hoisted him toward safety, adrenaline fueling their every movement. The cacophony of the train seemed to thrum in synchronicity with their pulse, pushing them to the limits of their physical capabilities. "Faster!" Mia urged, her resolve hardening. Was this bravery? Perhaps, but it felt nearly instinctual, a raw, unfiltered decision to stand by their convictions. They barely cleared the tracks when the train roared past, a whirlwind of noise that echoed their shared relief. Sam stumbled back on his feet, confusion giving way to a dawning realization that he had been rescued by three kids he had likely never considered. The kaleidoscope of emotions shifted: the relief, gratitude, and perhaps, for the first time, a glimpse of humility crossed his face. "Why did you save me?" He coughed out the words, bewilderment layered under disbelief. "Because we could," replied Daniel defiantly, clarity breaking through the cloud of expectation he always carried. With that small statement, a part of him shed the burden of living solely for others' approval. He saw something more in himself, the jumbled thoughts transforming into action for a greater good. Mia glanced at her friends, the exhilaration of their collective act hung in the air like the smell of smoke after a fire. In this single act, they each began the process of dismantling their own doubts and affirming their identities. Yet beneath that buzz of achievement lay a new tension. What would happen after today? They had saved a billionaire, but what would saving each other, saving themselves, look like? A sudden realization dawned in Mia's mind: this was only the beginning. Their vulnerability exposed through this moment now left them not just as heroes on a narrative arc, but individuals ready to grapple with their aspirations and failures in broader strokes. As they stood together with Sam, who looked uncharacteristically humbled, they felt the stirrings of their true potential beginning to unfold. What other challenges lay ahead? Each of them knew they were walking towards a crossroads, and the weight of that knowledge hung heavy in the air. The question echoed: could they face not just the world, but the harsh truths of their own lives? The moment was piercingly vivid, and they each exchanged glances filled with unspoken thoughts. Together, they would unravel the answers hiding beneath the surface of their newfound destinies, their stories interwoven beyond this day. But where would the journey take them next? Mia stood frozen for a heartbeat, her mind racing faster than the train that had nearly claimed a life today. Beyond relief, there was an awakening. This shared act of courage had stirred something dormant within her. As Sam Hargrove stumbled backward, still shaken, she could sense a shift in the air. The world felt different, filled with potential. "Did we just," she began, but the realization hung unspoken, a weight resting on their shoulders. They had acted, yes, but what would follow, and could they live up to it? Daniel, still catching his breath, shot her a confused but excited glance. Underneath the relaxed posture was a new kind of intensity. The experience had stripped away the layers of insecurity he'd wrapped around himself for so long. For the first time, he felt a sense of purpose unfurling within him, like the first rays of sunlight breaking through a thick fog. "Are we actually heroes now?" he joked, attempting to lighten the moment, though the question resonated deeper. Heroism had felt like a distant ideal, something reserved for figures on movie screens or grand historical narratives. Yet, it was clear that they had changed. The superhero they had idolized had come to life within them, but there remained a vast chasm between what they had done and who they still were. Alex couldn't help but ponder the irony. The artist who had often felt like a canvas smeared with colors of doubt had navigated through chaos with surprising clarity. Maybe this was the artistic statement he had always yearned to create, a declaration of self through action. But with the thrill of creation came the anxiety of expectation. Would his newfound sense of urgency turn to complacency once the adrenaline wore off? As the three of them stood shoulder to shoulder, a warmth spread between them. Someone had noticed. Sam, whose world had previously seemed so far removed from theirs, took a hesitant step toward them. You weren't just kids. You acted," he said slowly, processing the gravity of the moment. "I owe you." Mia felt a tightening in her chest. The gesture felt heavy, laden with responsibility. What did it mean for them to be recognized for their actions? This acknowledgement ignited a spark of frustration within her. Did saving someone mean they had to be shackled to that moment forever? The sudden recognition threatened to loom larger than her identity. "Let's not make a bigger deal out of it," she replied, her voice steadied but conflicted. "We just did what anyone would have done." But deep down, Mia knew this wasn't merely about others' perceptions. It was about confronting her own desire to be seen as more than just the nice girl and stepping into a realm of courage she had yet to fully embrace. In the aftermath, each of them contemplated the undercurrents shaping their thoughts. What more were they capable of? The adrenaline would eventually fade, but the echoes of this moment stirred an urgency to seek answers beyond the immediate. Each heartbeat resonated with the notion that they had ignited a fire that demanded exploration. "What if we did more?" Daniel questioned suddenly, as if the words had floated to the surface unbidden. "What if we took the skills we have, whatever they are, and pushed ourselves to see how far we can really go?" The suggestion hung in the thick air, charged with the promise of a potential mission. They weren't simply rescuers of people off tracks, they could become advocates, voices, agents of change. Mia felt her pulse quicken in response. All they needed was shape and direction. Those latent capabilities now beckoned on the horizon, but it wouldn't be easy. As they departed the site of their bold move, the steam of the train disappeared into the distance like the life of their former selves melting away. The simplicity of friendship, combined with the complexity of their internal struggles, melded into a singular focus. Determined yet apprehensive, they each considered the weight of their decision to move forward. What new paths would unfold before them? Together, they seemed to tiptoe on the edges of something monumental, each step into the unknown fraught with both promise and peril. In that moment, Mia knew, this chapter had closed, but the next was yet to be written. The world was before them, and its challenges weren't the usual school dilemmas. New adversaries awaited, and with them, the shadows of self-doubt loomed. Could they conquer what's coming, and was the bond forged today strong enough to withstand the trials ahead? The next school day unfolded in eerie mundanity, the vibrant normalcy of life clashing against the abrupt significance of yesterday's events. Halls babbled with the usual teenage chatter, but Mia felt a weight pressing down on her chest, amplifying the dissonance. She navigated between lockers, her senses heightened, aware of every glance, every whispered comment that spiraled toward the three of them like sudden gusts of wind. "Did you see the news?" came a familiar voice, Jenny, her former teammate from the track team, nudging Mia with an elbow. "You guys are heroes now. Can you believe it?" Mia smiled tightly, feeling the corners of her lips stretch but recognizing the quickening pulse of anxiety that raced beneath the surface. The label of hero felt like an ill-fitted garment, snug yet constricting. What did it mean to bear that title? It made her acutely aware of expectations not only from others but from within herself. Each time someone hailed them as heroes, she felt an invisible tether tethering her to that moment frozen in time. "It doesn't feel like that," she confessed to Daniel later as they sat at their usual lunch table, surrounded by the detritus of their often mundane discussions, crumpled papers, half-eaten sandwiches, and the occasional rattling of soda cans. "I mean, yeah, we acted, but what's next?" Are we supposed to keep saving lives now? That's the point, isn't it? Daniel replied, keen eyes reflecting a mix of vigor and fear. We've tapped into something we didn't know was there. Why not use it? We can start by addressing smaller issues, maybe even project our abilities into something constructive. A spark of excitement ignited within Mia, but it quickly flickered beneath an overshadowing wave of doubt. What if they could? What if they raised their voices and found a platform? But would that diminish their original act? Shouldn't they be honored in their simplicity rather than overstepping boundaries they weren't prepared to traverse? Alex's voice cut through her spiraling thoughts. If we're going to put ourselves out there, we need to plan. This isn't about fame, it's about doing something significant. We need a base to stand on. The trio shared enlivened glances, each stepping nearer to the precipice of change. Yet among the enthusiasm, shadows lingered, whispering caution. Each had personal hurdles to confront: Mia's desire to break free from being just the nice girl, Daniel's fear of exposure, and Alex's struggle with overcoming self-doubt. That determination to do more now posed its own set of dilemmas. They were on the cusp of deliverance, yet the potential for failure loomed like storm clouds overhead. As the day progressed, Mia sensed that every moment spent not acting sounded a note of trepidation in her heart. Later, as she lay in bed, the ceiling blurred amidst the torrents of her racing thoughts. Could things be different? She had a formulation of potential wrapped in her fingertips, yet she felt anchored by her own insecurities. What if she failed? What if the actions they took merely echoed the past, forever linking her to a singular moment rather than guiding her forward? Mia thought of the words Daniel had said earlier, echoing in the back of her mind. What if we took the skills we have and pushed ourselves? Could it indeed be that simple? With each passing day, she wanted to know not just who she was but who she could become. The embers of transformation glowed brightly, urging her to act, yet she hesitated on the verge of a public decision. The next day could determine their trajectory, a confrontation with their own fears. They had stood for someone else, now who would they stand for? And more importantly, would they be standing together? The awakening that had begun was far from complete, and a deeper call from within stirred for action. But would courage assert its dominance over doubt, or would Mia find herself retreating into old habits yet again? Only time would unveil the truth. What awaited in the coming days would test not just their friendship but their identities as they dared to forge a new path. Morning light filtered through the curtains, illuminating the room where Mia sat cross-legged on her bed, a tangle of notebooks sprawled around her. The contours of her handwritten thoughts formed jagged lines on paper, manifesting her swirling emotions in a chaotic rhythm. She pulled her phone from the bedside table, the screen lighting up with notifications, text messages swirling with excitement and praise, each one a reminder of the persona she had never intended to adopt. Hero felt like an oversized coat, one she could never quite wear comfortably. Deep down, Mia grappled with an unsettling anticipation. She wanted to reshape this narrative about herself, to be more than just a fleeting moment of bravery. Her hand hovered over the blank page of an open notebook. What do I bring to the table? She whispered to herself. The question echoed, a glimmer of clarity shimmering within uncertainty. Daniel's proposition from yesterday replayed in her mind. If they could harness the energy they discovered, something meaningful could emerge. But how? Mia knew her voice trembled under the weight of doubt. She scribbled the word challenge across the top of the page, thrusting forward as her thoughts collided. They needed a mission, something tangible to build from their shared experience. At school, she ambled through the halls, the energy of her peers palpable and distracting. Each congratulatory remark felt less like a compliment and more like a chain binding her to expectations she wasn't sure she could fulfill. From a distance, she caught sight of Daniel and Alex gesturing animatedly near their usual table. The glimmer of camaraderie drew her in, but lurking behind the camaraderie was a tempest brewing within. Would they even understand her need for direction? Hey, you ready to brainstorm? Daniel greeted her, eyes bright with enthusiasm. Mia offered a tentative smile, joining them as they clustered together, three forces on the cusp of impact, yet she couldn't shake the whispering dread nestling in her mind. "I've been thinking, maybe we should focus on a specific issue. Something we can tackle together." Alex leaned back, his uncertainty palpable. "Like what?" "We aren't exactly professionals. What if we fail?" "That's part of it, though," Mia countered, her pulse quickening with each word. "It's about growth. We need to face our fears head-on. This can't just be a one-off event where we feel good for a moment. We have to transform it into something real." She felt the quiet courage rising within as Daniel nodded. "Okay, what is your vision? Not just a feel-good story, but a movement forward." "Environmental issues," Mia proposed, her heart racing with the audacity of it. "There's so much disregard for our space: littering, pollution, neglect. Maybe we could organize cleanup drives or host informational sessions about sustainability." Alex wrinkled his nose. "Sounds good, but doesn't that feel? I don't know, ordinary." "Ordinary is where most change begins." Mia shot back. "If we can inspire even just a few people to think differently, that matters. It's not about being extraordinary, it's about making a consistent impact." As they launched into a fervent discussion, Mia noticed the shifting energy between them. Her hesitation began to dissipate like mist under a warming sun, her words igniting a collective fire. They couldn't deny their purpose anymore, they were on a path to something larger than themselves, yet, as they continued to brainstorm, deep questions lingered. Would this newfound focus reveal contradictions within them? Would the pressure of expectations morph from a burden into a catalyst, or would it break them apart? The thrill of potential began to outperform her apprehension, but a nagging worry about who they might face emerged, along with hidden complexities in their relationships. They were operating in uncharted waters, testing friendships while striving to redefine their identities. As Mia exited the room after their meeting, she caught her reflection in a nearby glass door, a girl who had just begun to understand her brewing strength, yet still searched desperately for her conviction amidst chaos. Tomorrow's meeting would either set them on a divergent course or catalyze a transformation that would ripple through their lives and beyond. Would they navigate this challenge together, or would their aspirations remain tethered to doubts that lurked in the shadows? The stakes were rising, and the moment for action drew near. Mia awoke the next morning with a knot in her stomach, tension radiating through every thought. She rolled over, glancing at her phone. A slew of messages awaited her, many echoing the excitement from yesterday's incident, most praising her bravery. But each notification felt like a reminder of her burdening identity. Mia didn't want to be a hero. She wanted to be a catalyst for change. With a new mission set in her mind, she buried the weight of accolades beneath her determination. In the classroom, the chatter around her buzzed with anticipation. Kids whispered about the next steps after the rescue. As she sat through lectures, Mia felt increasingly estranged from the very celebration that was supposed to empower her. Her thoughts were a whirlwind. It felt wrong to bask in glory when her focus was shifting to something far more meaningful. They needed to act, and soon, that afternoon, she met up with Daniel and Alex at their favorite park, the unofficial ground of their brainstorming. Mia could see excitement flickering in Daniel's eyes, while Alex seemed less enthusiastic, as if he was struggling to reconcile their new direction with his fears of failure. They settled on a bench under the old oak tree, the tranquil surroundings starkly contrasting with the turmoil running through Mia's mind. "Let's get started," she said, forcing a confident edge in her tone as she unpacked her notes. "What can we do? What resources do we have?" Daniel jumped in, his enthusiasm palpable. "We can dig into local contacts. There might be environmental groups that could help us amplify our voice." Alex hesitated, his voice barely above a whisper. "But, what if nobody cares? It's easy to feel good about change, but acting on it is hard." Mia felt the weight of Alex's doubt knocking against her resolve. As the memory of their energetic brainstorm collided with Alex's hesitations, she realized that this moment was pivotal. A web of unexpected complexities was closing in on them. What if it doesn't work out? She found herself questioning, bringing her internal struggles into the open. We have to confront those thoughts instead of running away from them. That's part of what being honest about change means, right? Daniel nodded slowly, a thoughtful look flaring to life. So we go in prepared, ready to tackle why it might fail and how we can overcome those fears. Mia felt the threads of her confidence beginning to tighten as clarity emerged. Exactly. If we can articulate the fear of failing, it becomes something manageable, a challenge. By examining what can go wrong, we can devise a plan to keep moving forward, she encouraged. As they brainstormed possible outreach strategies, Mia's confidence swelled, pushing her to explore deeper realms of her thoughts and capabilities. She jotted down ideas rapidly, visualizing the presentations they could create or the communities they could engage. But one troubling question loomed larger than the rest: if they achieved success, would it change who they were? What would happen when the applause faded, and the real work began? Each step forward emboldened her, brushing aside the doubts crippling her voice. Although much still seemed at stake, she felt a newfound connection with her friends, a potential for greater growth that eclipsed the fear of failure. However, as the sun dipped lower on the horizon, casting a shadow over the park, a nagging thought rested heavily on her mind: what if they faced opposition? There would always be barriers, and not everyone would understand or support their intentions. The moment of truth was closing in as they made plans for their first meeting with potential collaborators. Would they stand together, fortified by shared visions, or would the weight of expectations become their undoing? Mia stood up, brushing thoughts of doubt aside like fallen leaves. The world outside would challenge them, and reality was waiting to expose their vulnerabilities. But if they wanted change, they would need to embrace the uncharted territories that lay ahead. As they walked away from the bench, the air thick with lingering uncertainty, Mia turned back for one last glance at the oak tree, a symbol of growth and resilience. Tomorrow's meeting could redefine everything, but would they be ready for the challenges and revelations it would bring? Mia's restless night morphed into a day laden with anticipation. The moment had arrived, the meeting that could either ignite their collective ambitions or lay bare the frailties hidden beneath the surface. As she approached the community center, unease twisted in her stomach, an insistent reminder of the stakes they faced. Inside, the chatter of potential collaborators echoed off the walls, mixing excitement with uncertainty. Mia scanned the room, her heart quickening as she spotted familiar faces from local organizations. Each one represented a voice of authority, yet they also felt like a canvas onto which she needed to project her vision. "Focus," she whispered under her breath, fighting to steady her thoughts. Perhaps she should have rehearsed her pitch, but what reflected in her mind was not merely a plan but a deeply felt conviction: change was necessary, and she was willing to lead the charge. As the trio settled around a makeshift table, the energy shifted. Daniel was animated, recounting recent findings about local environmental degradation, while Alex kept glancing around, visibly overwhelmed. He'd always been the cautious one, the one who would weigh every decision with a heavy scale of rationale. "All right, everyone," Mia started, her voice firm yet inviting. "This isn't just about us. It's about making our community and environment better." The statement hung in the air, articulating both clarity and vulnerability. She felt a latent power in acknowledging their collective purpose, but it ignited an internal battle. Was she prepared for the pushback? Would they see her as an authentic leader or merely a symbol of naive hope? As discussions unfolded, she wrestled with each question, framing her responses thoughtfully. One representative challenged the feasibility of their goals. "You're young, and it's wonderful you're excited, but how do you propose to get the adults in the community involved? People get set in their ways." Mia's instinct was to recoil, but the instinctive fight sparked a steely resolve. "That's true," she responded, feeling the weight of every eye on her, "but isn't change rooted in discomfort? We have to provoke thought, communicate effectively, and engage with them on a human level. It's our responsibility to initiate that conversation, not theirs." She could feel her words gaining traction, breathing life into the strategic plans they had crafted. With each argument laid out, she felt a layer peel off, revealing a heightened sense of awareness and authenticity. This was not just about environmental advocacy, it was about forging deeper connections and confronting the barriers of indifference. Yet, with the interactions continuing, Mia sensed Alex's distress manifesting physically. He fidgeted, tapping his fingers against the table as if searching for release. The contrast between her growing conviction and his spiraling apprehension was palpable. As she concluded her thoughts and opened the floor to discussion, Mia had to confront her rising frustration with Alex's reticence. Did he see the potential in their collaboration, or was he too ensnared by fear? The remaining questions echoed with haunting familiarity. What if they did fail? Would Alex's fears become a burden too heavy to carry? As the session drew to an end, Mia felt exhausted yet invigorated, her heart racing with possibilities. Perhaps today had not just been about articulating change but about dismantling the ghosts of doubt haunting her friends. While saying their goodbyes, Mia caught Alex's worried glance and reached for his shoulder. "Hey, are you okay?" The question tethered her back to their intertwined paths of growth, yet she felt an ache knowing doubt could sour his spirit. "I'm not sure if I'm cut out for this," Alex admitted softly, eyes cast downward. Mia steeped in this moment of vulnerability, resisting the urge to reassure him with empty platitudes. Instead, she set her jaw, recognizing the fragile nature of their endeavor. "Then we'll work through it together," she promised, her voice steady, but she couldn't escape the gnawing fear that perhaps she was trying to hold together a fragile tapestry of ambition, resilience, and uncertainty. Their journey had just begun, but the shadows of their insecurities were quickly catching up. Would they succumb to vulnerability, or would they dare to confront the season of doubts? The meeting left Mia more resolute than ever, but a new, profound anxiety emerged. How would they navigate the crucial moments when their differences could divide them, and their fears could shatter the fragile momentum they had built? As days slipped into one another, Mia found herself consumed by a duality of feelings, exhilaration contrasted by an ever-present anxiety. The initial meeting had sparked something latent within her, yet the aftermath also magnified the weight of her aspirations. Each conversation echoed in her mind like a metronome, marking the rhythm of possibilities, but beneath the excitement lay an embankment of doubt. She immersed herself in researching strategies that had proven effective in engaging skeptical communities. After hours poring over online resources, she began to synthesize her knowledge, seeking ways to frame their message compellingly. The most challenging part was thinking of avenues to reach not only the youth but the older generations who often seemed resistant to change. Realizing that she could leverage her understanding of both demographics was empowering. Mia decided that her next approach would hinge on storytelling. She envisioned creating a series of narratives that would resonate with different age groups, showcasing real-life examples of environmental impact. Each story would serve as a bridge between the generations, a reminder that every voice mattered, whether youthful exuberance or seasoned wisdom. In her newly found fervor, she reached for her phone and sent a message to Alex, inviting him for a brainstorming session. However, the more she typed, the more tension coiled within her. Would he respond positively, or would vulnerability grip him once again? She pressed send before she could second-guess herself. When they met, Mia felt the weight of her ambition in the air between them. Alex had a cautious enthusiasm, but the undercurrent of worry was still evident. They settled down at a small cafe, and as Mia laid out her vision fusing impactful narratives with strategic engagement, she watched his expression flicker with interest. That could work, he conceded, unwinding slightly. Using stories would allow people to see the personal stakes involved, rather than just statistics. A tentative hope budded within Mia. Perhaps she was getting through to him. Yet, as Alex chased the idea further, she caught herself overthinking, was this a mere momentary spark, or could he genuinely step into the role they needed? Their discussion shifted toward logistical challenges. Mia zeroed in on connecting with local schools and community leaders. She wasn't just stepping into the realm of an environmental advocate, she was becoming a mediator between aspirations and apprehensions, and that realization brought a sense of thrill and terror. "Are you sure you can handle this?" Alex suddenly asked, breaking her concentration. The question, laced with concern yet admiration, was a nod to her ambition. "I mean, it's not just about the message. It's about facing the pushback and navigating all the nuances of different personalities. What if they reject your ideas? The uncertainty struck Mia like a cold wave, paralyzing her momentarily. His point was valid. What if she had built this intricate plan only to be met with disbelief? She swallowed hard. It's about the impact, Alex. It's about connecting with people, one story at a time. Every narrative I share is a step towards breaking those barriers. We have to be courageous enough to face the resistance. Alex's gaze softened, but she sensed he was still locked in his internal battle. You make it sound easy, but what if it doesn't resonate? Then we adjust. We learn. We grow together. The fervor in her voice felt like a declaration, full of vulnerability but also an undeniable conviction. For the first time, she realized that leadership wasn't about having all the answers, it was about navigating the complexities of growth with others. With the focus shifting toward logistical execution, Mia felt the adrenaline surge through her. Tasks piled up, yet the idea of unleashing a wave of connection through storytelling invigorated her. They composed an outline, each segment igniting the room with potential, and Mia could almost taste the promise of change they were crafting. As they walked out of the cafe, a sense of camaraderie enveloped them. Their journey still harbored uncertainties, but Mia was beginning to understand the delicate balance of vulnerability and ambition. The stakes were rising, and with every plan laid out, they edged closer to facing the looming fear of failure. Just as they reached the street corner, Alex turned to Mia with sudden intensity. We have to set a timeline. If we can't hold each other accountable, then what are we really doing? His words hung in the air like a challenge and a call to arms. Mia felt anticipation swirl in her chest. This was not merely a matter of planning, it was about confronting the reality of their shared commitment. Would this push them closer together or reveal deeper fractures among insecurities yet unspoken? As they stepped into the unknown, elements of passion and fear converged, leaving her pondering one crucial question: could they rise above their doubts, ready to face what lay ahead? Mia awoke the next morning to a brisk wind rattling her window, shaking her from the uncertainty of dreams she couldn't recall. A mix of excitement and trepidation brewed in her stomach as the day unfolded. With every plan outlined and each conversation carved from her imagination, she worked on aligning their narrative strategy, a medley of storytelling and statistics. But now, with Alex's insistence on a timeline weighing on her shoulders, the pressure to deliver mounted. Her fingers danced across her keyboard, building an intricate digital campaign that interwove tales of personal impact. But every keystroke bore the ghost of doubt, whispering through her mind, was it enough? The lingering question sowed seeds of hesitation, prompting Mia to pause before sending a rough draft to Alex. What if he didn't see her vision? What if her words fell flat? Breathing deeply, she pushed those thoughts aside, reminding herself that authentic narratives could pierce through skepticism. But framing her skills, shaping her thoughts into something shareable, felt like an exercise in vulnerability she wasn't fully prepared for. After several tight-lipped hours, Mia finally mustered the courage to send her draft. The reply came quickly: looks great. Let us meet up at 4 to discuss it further. A wave of relief crashed over her, yet was quickly tinged with doubt. Was great just polite discourse? As the clock inched closer to their meeting, anticipation twisted in her gut. Mia paced her small apartment, skimming the draft again, her mind racing through the potential feedback. What if Alex found holes in her plan? Or worse, what if he believed the narratives would be ineffectual? When they met at the cafe, she noticed a shift in the atmosphere. Alex seemed more assured, his posture more relaxed than before, almost as if her manuscript had catalyzed a change within him. It sparked a paean of hope in Mia. Okay, so I love the direction you went with the stories, he began. You're on to something with the focus on personal experience over statistics. We need to make people feel what's at stake. Mia felt her heart lift. His acceptance was a validation she had craved. Yet, as the conversation progressed, she felt a new current of tension. Their ideas began flowing freely, each suggestion ricocheting off the other like notes in a vibrant melody. But with every ensuing exchange, a nagging thought began to burrow deeper into her consciousness: how would they handle dissent? Mia, Alex said, tilting his head as he scrutinized her latest narrative angle, I appreciate the bravery in sharing these personal stories, but what if we encounter pushback from those who have a different perspective? Have you thought about how to handle that? The anxiety crackled through her like static electricity. She had considered the applause, the potential for solidarity, but facing resistance invoked a flurry of self-questioning. Could she navigate those turbulent waters? What if our stories aren't enough to persuade those who don't care, she murmured, almost to herself. Then we prepare, Alex responded, his voice steadier than hers. We need to arm ourselves with facts and empathy. Maybe we can address common misconceptions within the stories. Sensing the shift in their discussion, Mia became acutely aware that this was a pivotal moment. She wrestled with how to infuse confidence into their narratives amidst the pushback. Was she emotionally equipped for the inevitable confrontation? Could she offer the strength their initiative needed when faced with doubt and dismissal? With renewed resolve, she took a deep breath, leaning into the challenge. Yes, and we can emphasize the emotional stakes connected back to local history, shared experiences. If we're able to situate these narratives within their world, maybe they'll be inclined to listen. The proposal was met with a flicker of acknowledgement in Alex's eyes. As he made notes, Mia felt a halo of determination settle over her, a new insight. This project wasn't about being right, it was about building relationships through understanding and the courage to confront difficult truths. Days morphed into focused collaboration. Mia delved deeper, crafting narratives that interwove science with storytelling. Yet, despite her strides, shadows of doubt continued to whisper in quiet moments. As pressure mounted to meet their timeline, the struggle between advancement and fear grew palpable. Their final session before rolling out the campaign loomed ahead. Staring into her laptop at an unfinished draft, she felt the weight of her aspirations clawing at her lungs. What if the stories did resonate, but in a way she didn't foresee? What if she was unprepared for the fallout? As her phone buzzed with a reminder of their meeting, Mia sat rooted, the realization crashing upon her. In this moment of creation, they were teetering on the edge of their journey, a precipice of uncertainty where triumph awaited just beyond the veil. With her heart racing, she questioned whether the courage to leap into the unknown was stronger than the fear gripping her heart. The next steps loomed before her like shadows waiting to emerge, each filled with their own potential for conflict and triumph. As Mia closed her laptop, the emotional gravity of their mission settled over her. Would they brave the tides of criticism together, emerging stronger, or would the cracks of their insecurities threaten to unravel their ambition? The hour approached, fraught with possibilities, and Mia braced herself, knowing that confronting their greatest fears was just the beginning. What awaited them on the other side? As Mia stood before her friends in the community center, the energy in the room was electric with anticipation. Today was the day they would unveil their project, a culmination of their bravery and ambition. Each moment felt like a heartbeat echoing in the anticipation that hung heavy in the air. The audience looked on, faces a blend of confusion and curiosity. Would their stories resonate? Would they find common ground amid the doubts clouding their motives? Mia took a deep breath, grounding herself in their shared experiences, the treasure trove of narratives that had shaped who they were. Thank you all for joining us today, she began. What we're sharing isn't just data. This is about our lives, our homes, and the future we can create together. As they shared their meticulously crafted stories interwoven with real concerns about environmental issues, she could see the audience leaning in. The dynamics shifted, curiosity blossomed into engagement. Each narrative echoed the urgency with which they approached the challenges facing their community. Families began to nod, others exchanged glances filled with consideration. The warmth of shared concern began to ignite the space. Daniel spoke with newfound authority as he aligned their statistics with Mia's emotional outreach. This isn't just about recycling or reducing waste, it's about legacies and lives. Keeping our environment healthy makes a difference for families right here, he emphasized, sharing anecdotes that vividly illustrated their points. Their confidence interlaced with authenticity began to peel back layers of resistance. Alex followed, his typically hesitant demeanor cracking as he revealed insights from his own family's struggles with pollution in their neighborhood. When we look at environmental degradation, we aren't seeing just numbers, we're seeing friends losing their homes, families displaced. Our stories reflect the challenges we all face together. It was a pivotal moment. The audience began to connect the dots between the individual and the collective experiences they shared. Mia could barely contain the swell of pride and purpose that enveloped her. They were more than 3 kids who stumbled into an unexpected act of heroism. They were messengers of change, educators drawing on their realities to foster understanding. As they concluded their presentation, the applause that erupted felt not only affirming but cathartic. They had conquered the fear of judgment, turned uncertainties into alliances, and sprung forward with determined declarations. In the days that followed, the initial excitement blossomed into something tangible. They found themselves organizing cleanup events and partnering with local businesses to launch a campaign for sustainable practices. As their efforts gained momentum, Mia felt a shift within herself. Her identity as just the good student was morphing into a dynamic leader, shaped by collaborative experiences, critical dialogues, and a dedication to change. People began to reach out, eager to support their mission. The community responded with enthusiasm, discussing how to integrate eco-friendly practices into their daily lives. Mia's phone buzzed constantly with messages of encouragement, confirming a truth she had almost forgotten: transformation stemmed not just from taking action but from uniting around common purpose. Her fear of being labeled a hero felt less constraining now. She was navigating beyond the narrative of a singular moment, stepping into a realm where collective empowerment thrived. Amidst the success, a realization hit her: the individual triumphs were as important as the group's progress. Mia, Daniel, and Alex had emerged as empowered individuals, each unlocking their unique potential. Daniel no longer felt the suffocating need for external validation. He had proven to himself that he could lead, that his intelligence was a tool for change, not merely a category defined by others. Alex, too, had visibly flourished. Once weighed down by anxiety, he now channeled his creativity in meaningful ways, using his artistic background to create compelling visual narratives that framed their mission. Instead of retreating from fear, he had chosen to amplify his voice, transforming doubt into determination. As they stood together planning their next steps, Mia looked around at her friends, their faces radiant with purpose. They had not only saved a life on the tracks but rekindled the flame within each other. With solid confidence, recognized competence, and an established position in their community, they were changing perceptions, tackling societal indifference head-on. "I'm proud of us," Mia said, her voice steady but filled with emotion. It was not just about defeating fear, it was about stepping into authentic expressions of who they had become. The journey ahead loomed with challenges, but their bond had emerged as an unyielding force, capable of navigating the complexities ahead. Together, they would not just face the future, they would shape it. This is the moment for you, too. You need to subscribe now. Be part of a community that champions personal growth and collective change. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and help us reach more dreamers and doers like you. Comment your reactions and theories about these incredible transformations. And don't wait even one more second to share this journey with at least 5 friends who need inspiration in their lives. Together, we can spark the flame of courage and change.